Hi, I'm Russell Graves and welcome to the barn at Hackberry Farm. And in today's video, we're going to talk about 5 common mistakes that beginning photographers make, and more importantly, how you can go about solving them. So stick with us to the end. I've got a special surprise for you, and here we go. All right, I teased up front, we're going to talk about 5 mistakes beginning photographers make. Now, these aren't all the 5 mistakes. Believe me, when I was a beginning photographer, I made all kinds of mistakes. If I was to write everything down, I'd have a list of probably 50 different things. But when I'm out in the field with other photographers, these are the 5 common mistakes I see people make. And more importantly, I'm going to identify the mistakes, but more importantly, I'm going to tell you how to solve them. Mistake number 1, and these are in no particular order, but mistake number 1 is trying to overcomplicate things. You know, really good photography is a process of doing the same thing over and over and over again. It's a wash, rinse, and repeat mentality. It really is that simple. And so what a lot of beginning photographers do is they'll just have too many things going on in their mind, trying to make too many decisions at once. And so the solution to that is think about it simply. Think about it in simple processes. Make sure your aperture is right. Make sure your shutter speed is right. Make sure the ISO is set where you want it. And then do that same thing over and make sure the lighting's good. And then do that same process over and over and over again. And after a while, you're going to see where you're starting to build repeatability. Repeatability breeds consistency. Mistake number 2, not understanding the fundamentals of photography. You know, I talk about this a whole lot. The fundamentals of photography, if you have a good grasp of them, will take you so far in photography and will make your results consistent time and time again. I compare photography a lot to a sport like golf, where the best golfers in the world understand if they don't have good fundamentals in their game, they're never going to be able to play the game well. That fundamental concept and mindset applies to not only photography, but any kind of sports or any other kind of activity you're going to do. There's a certain set of skills that you need to know, base set of skills, and if you can do those certain set of skills over and over again and be consistent in your skill set, then you get better. And so what do I mean by the fundamentals of photography? I mean having an understanding of light and what's good light and what's bad light, understanding the basics of camera operation, like what does ISO mean, what does aperture mean, and what does it mean when you're set at f/22 as opposed to f/5.6, and then what does shutter speed mean, and what shutter speed do you need to be at to capture the kind of action you're wanting to capture, whether it's slow shutter speed water shots or whether it's fast shutter speed birds in flight shots. So understanding the fundamentals of photography will go a long way in really improving your game in a quick and efficient manner. Mistake number 3, being too gear focused. Now, I'm like everybody else. I love getting online and reading gear reviews. I love looking at different lenses, whether they're brand new lenses that a company may come out with or whether they're old lenses that you can go to used sites and buy. I just love camera gear. But I learned early on, back when I was a beginning photographer and making a lot of mistakes, is that the gear, although important, isn't paramount to your success. I know when I first started out, my biggest telephoto lens I had was a 70 to 200 millimeter zoom lens. And so I was shooting wildlife pictures, and I got where I was starting to shoot professional wildlife pictures using just that basic lens, because I understood that even though the camera gear is important, what's more important are things like fieldcraft and really understanding how to use that camera. The solution to being too gear focused is just really focus on the kind of gear that you have and really get good, again, at the fundamentals of photography. Understand how your camera is going to behave under various lighting scenarios and really understand the inner workings of your camera in and out. The time will come when you can upgrade equipment. Believe me, I'm always looking to upgrade equipment. So there's lenses that I still want. But in the beginning, if you go back to my second tip and focus on fundamentals and really understand that, you'll be able to maximize the gear that you have and then stop focusing too much on gear being your answer to solving all your problems. Mistake number 4, I think, is relying too much on technology. Now, there's a difference between the gear part and the technology part. Let me explain. When I'm talking about gear part, I'm talking about lenses, cameras, things like that. But when I'm talking about technology, I'm talking about all these software tips and tricks that we can do. Now, the software is great. I use software. It's not like I'm an anti-software kind of person, but I also believe that you do yourself a favor if you try to get the picture as right as you can while you're in the field. Now, I get it, it's not always possible, but when you can, that should be your goal. Now, the reason why I said relying too much on technology is because there's not too many things in life that do what photographers do, and I'm guilty of it from time to time, whereas you have this mentality, I'll just take it now and then I'll fix it later. I mean, you wouldn't accept that kind of mentality from your mechanic or your heating and air conditioning service technician or your electrician or anybody else, but photographers routinely do that. They think, I can go back later and sharpen it or do some other kind of software technique to fix it. But I've always been a fan of, and maybe it's because my background is shooting film from the beginning where you had to get it right. I've always been a fan of just really trying to be diligent and work as hard as you can to get it right in camera. Understanding technology is supposed to support what you do, not be a crutch for your lack of skills. So work hard on, again, understanding the fundamentals. I can't repeat that too much. Understanding the fundamentals of aperture, shutter speed, ISO, and lighting. Get good at those things. Use technology as a way to support what you do, not be a crutch for your deficiencies. Mistake number 5, I believe beginning photographers make, is relying too much on the gear. Now, I just talked about relying too much on technology. What I mean by gear is not the software part of what we do, but actually the hardware part, or the cameras and lenses. Now, these modern cameras that we use are magnificent. You shoot at 45 megapixels and they give you all kinds of resolution to be able to do all kinds of things with images. But when it comes to wildlife photography, I see a lot of people wanting to try to shoot a picture of a bird, tiny bird, way off in the distance, and then crop to be able to see a good shot of that bird. Now, when you can do it successfully, that's fine, but a lot of times you shouldn't rely on just the ability to crop and your gear, the resolution of your gear, to try to be successful. Because there comes a time when, and you can't escape this, because you're shooting with a telephoto lens and then the air is compressed between you and the subject, you start shooting through a lot of air, and then all of a sudden, depending on the conditions, the image starts to degrade. So no matter how much you crop, all you're doing is cropping into a more and more inferior image. So the solution to that is not relying too much on the gear, is get good at fieldcraft. In the coming weeks, I'm going to be releasing some videos about fieldcraft, things you can do in the field to help you get closer to wildlife. But in the meantime, understand the best thing you can do, the best zoom you can have, is really your 2 feet. If you can get closer to an animal, get closer to an animal. If you can do it without disturbing the animal or stressing it out, get as close as you can to it. That's always best. Because then you're letting your camera, you're not using your camera as a crutch, you're letting your gear work for you. Because these lenses are designed to not shoot, and they're not miracle workers. They can't shoot through a lot of dirty air and expect to have clear images on the back end. And we've all done it before. You go out during the summertime and try to shoot something in the distance and you get those heat bubbles coming up off the ground or off pavement or something like that, and you just can't get a sharp image. You know what I'm talking about. We've all been there before. And so by focusing on getting closer to an animal and using your fieldcraft techniques, you can use just about any kind of gear to take good pictures at that point. It doesn't have to be the latest and greatest. You can use 25-year-old digital cameras as long as you use proper fieldcraft and proper fundamentals and be able to achieve great photos time and time again. If you like what you watched and heard today, be sure to like and subscribe our videos. It really does help us out a lot. And if you want your set of free nature photography cheat sheets, head on over to hackberryfarm.com, put in your email address, and those cheat sheets will be delivered directly to your inbox. Thanks a lot.